What is Turbo Boost? That is a very good question. I, the humble content creator to an audience of maybe 50, would say in response. Turbo Boost is a fast-paced Sonic-inspired platformer on a popular platform known as Roblox. However, that description wasn't always accurate. So to celebrate its 5th birthday, which is on September 30th, I want to go all out with an hour-long tribute to the game. I intend to take an in-depth look into the development history while giving insight on some of the game design choices. Hopefully it will inspire other game developers by making a case that game development is messy, but worth it if you work through it yourself. So without further ado, buckle yourselves in for this lengthy air dive into the making of Turbo Boost. Alright, well, you are here basically representing the veteran fan group for Turbo Boost, the people who have been playing since the early days. How does it feel to be an elite?
I feel honored because I've always been a fan of your work and playing elite.
Okay, wait, retake.
It feels amazing because I've always been a fan in your work, and ever since Turbo Boost released, I've been always wanting to play it. I've always loved your work, and seeing Turbo released in action was probably something so exciting because I love Sonic, and you recreated something that is similar to Sonic Forces. It's really good, to be honest. Like, it's actually does represent Sonic Forces in a lot of ways.
What did you first think of the game?
I first thought it was like a mixture of Mario and Sonic. Then I found out, or like upon playing the game, I realized, oh hey, it's just a Sonic inspired game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially like early on in the early days, I could getting like a Mario sense from it.
Yeah, I felt that. It was like, it's not so noticeable. It's like you notice it unconsciously, but just proceed to play it as a Sonic game.
What impression did the game leave for you overall?
I was pretty impressed because back then nobody had pulled such a Sonic game like that. It was actually really rare to see Sonic games like that nowadays, or back then, because the sound engine was not released. So I thought it was something that deserves to be commended for.
What impression did the old version leave you? Now I'm curious. Like, specifically the old version.
The old version was cool. I liked the engine, but like, it felt pretty empty. It lacked content.
What were your 3 favorite things?
Oh wow, that's a good question. Definitely the camera manipulation. I loved how the camera worked, like, they just move to different angles when you like hit specific place in the stage.
Yeah.
I loved that gave it a little like dynamic feeling, like, oh hey, I'm playing a Sonic game. I did enjoy that. And the second thing I would say is the homing attack. It was good. Back then nobody was able to like code it or like do some similar, so yeah, it was pretty impressive. And the third thing was the overall level layout. You actually got creative with the level layout. I think for standards back then, the level design was pretty neated, in my opinion.
Okay, bonus question.
Yeah.
In the early stages, were you ever afraid that the game was gonna flop?
To be honest, yeah.
I feel like, I was gonna say, I was expecting you to say yeah. Like.
I mean, yeah, not a lot of Sonic games make it through, so you can't really blame me if I expect a game to flop.
Well, before we end, would you like to add anything?
Yes. It's, don't release Sound Engine 2. Please. Thank you.
You'll be on your deathbed and you're like, you better not have released it, and then you just die.
For real, bro.
Thank you for coming on here.
No problem. Later.
See ya.
Yeah.
So you're basically like representing the mid-development fan sort of group. You're pretty much the only person I could find who was up to do this.
Wait, really?
Yeah. So the first question is like, what did you think of the game at its state, like when you first played it?
Oh, okay, so I did find it really enjoyable. Well, for to begin with your sound engine, it is quite a well-made engine. And seeing other games use it and such, and seeing how people have used it, and seeing how you've done some a few things differently with it, I find it quite enjoyable.
Oh, what impression does Turbo Boost give you, like, as a whole, for the Roblox Sonic fan game community, or even just Roblox in general?
Well, for me personally, it would just it's another Sonic fan game, but I feel like that's to be expected, because
Yeah.
well, that's what most Roblox fan games in particular are like, until you actually play some of them and then see what they actually have in offer.
What were your three... Do you have, like, a list? Would you be able to, like, pull up a list of 3 favorite things from Turbo Boost?
Okay, one thing I can definitely say off the top of my head right now is I do like how diverse and unlinear the levels can be. Though, to be fair, it can be a little confusing. Another thing, it's not easy in the sense of how many Roblox Sonic games I've played. They're quite, well, they seem really easy, and this actually brings a challenge to it. A third thing? I'm not sure for a third thing, honestly.
Well, is there anything you would like to add?
Add bosses, add like really intractable enemies, because I feel like many people don't do that in Roblox specifically, and
Right.
For me personally, it changed the game so much. Like, it makes it more interesting and more enjoyable. And maybe a race mode with how many paths there are. I feel like that would be a really interesting concept to go through. To essentially conclude this, Turbo Boost has a lot of potential, and I'm really looking forward to see what being installed when it's finished. Finish the game, please. That's about it. Just finish the game, because I don't really see many finished and complete Roblox games.
Right.
And the ones that actually do finish them, they're actually really good.
Dude, it's been 5 years. I owe it to you guys at this point. Like,
Like, don't weigh yourself down or think you have to, but try your best.
yeah, I'll try my best. Thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome.
All right.
Thank you for having me. So yeah.
No problem. Alright, so I basically have you here, like, representing sort of the newer fan group. Like, you've been here since you started playing around, like, New Year City, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, like, the newer, uninitiated group, to make it funny. When you first started playing, what were your, like, first impressions of it?
Well, I guess it was like oh, it's kind of like Sonic, but Roblox. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Like, it's in its DNA. What impression did the game leave you, like, after, your first playthrough? What impression does it leave?
It's a unique one. It's like it's like Sonic, but it has its own unique style and stuff. Like everything, like it has that bounce, like
Yeah, like its own little charm.
yeah.
Alright, and are there, like, any 3 particular things that you specifically like about the game?
I like all the level layouts and stuff, how everything's placed and helps keep the levels flowing, and it's got that kind of flow that, like, the atmosphere is. It's just got a good atmosphere. Let's just say that.
And, well, those are, like, the only questions I had, really, but is there anything else you'd want to add, or anything you want to ask me?
I think that's it, really. If I have else, I'll ask another time, I guess.
Alrighty, that's fair. Thank you for coming on.
And thank you for having me.
No problem. Alright, see you around. Imagine a naive 13-year-old kid poking through Roblox's development tools to pass the time. No direction, no plan, and definitely no idea about what he's doing. That's it. That's literally how it started. I want to say TurboBoost began development as an aimless shot in the dark, but even that's overly optimistic. One summer day in 2017, I opened Roblox Studio to pass the time. I poked around a bit, not understanding the tools, but I was determined to make something fun. That resulted in a little fenced pen jailing an unoriginal NPC. I also found out how to manipulate the character's walk speed, and that's when I told myself, yeah, I should make a game with that. See, I'd played a lot of Mustachio's Sonic World Adventure, watched plenty videos of Sonic Generations, mods included, and played the classic Sonic games religiously. I was a Sonic connoisseur myself, so if anyone knew how a Sonic game should be like on Roblox, it was me. I made a couple movement animations, amped up the walk speed and jump height, and then I got to work. I figured out how to drag the player to a specified point in the 3D space and realized I cracked the code for air panels. Not springs, air panels. And it's the same funky air panel model I deliberately choose to use to this very day. Anyway, I was so stoked. This revelation was like unlocking the 4th dimension. I immediately made a functional kill pit and started on a level, now known as the scrapped intro level. It became my mission to create a high-speed level with alternate paths and challenges which bring the players some goodies, which weren't functional, but who's keeping track? I did my hardest to turn this into an actual game, to the point I recruited a couple Discord friends for my dev team, quote unquote. That fell through within almost a week. My other attempt to turn this into an actual game was to have a plot. So after making my first spring, an interactive button, and a really nasty welcome sign, I got to work on a simple story concept for this level. Basically, the player is trying to track down a mysterious figure known as Xander, but like, who he is or what he's actually doing is irrelevant. Even if he was minding his business in a field of flowers, chances are an intervention was about to happen. After sleeping on the thought of where you'd find him, I eventually made a lava-filled factory. You climb your way up a couple blocks and run over to the shadowy figure, and then the level's over. That was short. So I got to work on a hub. It wasn't very pretty, but that's okay, because soon it was going to be like the Sonic 06 hub, or Mustachio's Sonic World Adventure hub, or a cross between the two, something like that. At least that's what I told myself. I also told myself I'd add a skill shop and started trying to hire people to get that done for me, but you can probably guess how that turned out because I didn't even have another level done. But that changed when I started development on like 5 different levels at once. The first level was Green Hill Zone, which featured incredibly basic platforming. The second level was inspired by the abstract design of the Super Mario Sunshine secret levels. In fact, this was supposed to be a secret level itself. It featured high-speed platforming on suspended, sparkly red platforms. There's even this one spot where a rotating block flings you into a dropping zone onto a platform. But if you feel extra cautious, you can jump up there and drop down yourself. Neat stuff. The third level was... oh no. So, at a random point in time, my young mind was hyperfixated on Sonic Advance 3's Sunset Hill Zone. Naturally, I told myself that making a 3D interpretation of this level would be a good idea. It wasn't. And to even call it an interpretation of Sunset Hill is heavily disrespectful, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. Moving on, there are a couple more levels here and there, such as a desert level featuring different platform puzzle challenges you need to complete to progress, a level loosely inspired by Sonic Forces Metropolis, and some other tiny levels that didn't really do anything. The overall idea for these levels was to have a bombastic Sonic Generations-esque experience, dabbling in the stop-and-go platforming and adding gimmicks that didn't work half the time. The problem is that I didn't have a single thing planned, so these are just hit-or-miss attempts to just make something. I do not recommend this unless you're just starting out and you understand you might not be able to make a huge game at that state. I had the unfortunate fate of trying to bite off more than I can chew. If you're an aspiring game developer, I recommend you plan things out and experiment until you're ready. Eventually, I made a neat test level dubbed Asset Test Palace. It's not actually a palace, but who keeps track? Here, I made level snippets that called back to various Sonic levels, just to see how things worked in execution. Things being spikes, air diving, sliding, automated light speed dash, and even a short underwater section. I wanted the game to have distinct layouts and designs, maybe with speedrun shortcuts once that skill system got finished. Except it didn't. Unfortunately, I realized this was Roblox we were talking about. I could make something, but it would miss what I was envisioning. The physics wouldn't be too flexible, the controls wouldn't be complex, and the looks of the game wouldn't be anything insane. I didn't know too much about coding or Roblox development or even game development in general. But since I was focused on Sonic Generations gameplay, I went back and watched review videos of the game and realized people were mostly holding out for one thing: level design. That put a nice bow on what I like to call the first era of TurboBoost. I hadn't accomplished much by this point. I made a couple interactive objects, got a functional moveset down, and made an intro level, a secret level, and a bare bones hub, and then I made a test level. At this point, I took up my losses and held out for a miracle. I tried to innovate with each challenge I faced, but I never knew when to pull back. This was made abundantly clear when I started work on the biggest level yet. Remember how I mentioned callbacks to different Sonic levels in the test stage? Well, one of those was Planet Wisp. And being the hyperfixated ADHD kid I was, I told myself, LMAO, make a Planet Wisp level, woohoo! So I gathered some of my Discord friends and we started a group called Napkin Studio, with our main focus being this untitled Sonic project. Yeah, this dang thing went untitled for the longest time. It wasn't until we made a Discord server for Napkin Studio and gathered a small following that I pinged everyone and asked for names. Someone said Turbo Boost and I really liked it, so I changed it to all caps and tossed an exclamation mark at the end to make it match the studio's name. This game didn't even have a placeholder name, it's so funny. We'd gotten to work on this level, but there was no guidance nor was there a game plan. Someone added a settings menu and someone else made a couple tree models, but there wasn't really anything to do. I experimented with level design ideas, making things up as I went, but a couple weeks in, most of the dev team fell off, popping in every once in a while just to help with the level design. When I thought I was done, I went back and kept adding more to the level, then I gave a breath of life to the environment, and then I added even more on top of that. I was just not content with finishing this level, which is actually a really bad idea, especially considering I did not have a clear plan worked out. I was kinda just adding things to add things, and my motivation became something like a raisin after I gave up. Anyway, the outcome was a trek through a lush landscape being torn apart by machinery, carefully navigating through a couple factories, or not if you take one of the side paths, and all of it came together in a final stretch through a beautiful forest which remains intact. At least for now it is. My relentless need to do more actually paid off pretty well here. Although a couple of the additions were sloppy, I realized level design could be the glue to hold this messy game together. So running off that notion, I made another level. The beloved gameland of the 21st century. At this point, I also believed that I should update the gameplay a bit, so I strung together some very ugly code for acceleration which didn't work half the time, but it's okay because it also had a boost mode, so problem solved. This level had nothing going for it in terms of environment. I wanted to focus on level design anyway, so who am I kidding, it's the perfect pick. There wasn't anything notable about the development of this level, I just learned some level flow ideas that did and didn't work, and it was incredibly uninspired other than that. So to gain inspiration, I went back to where it all started, Asset Test Palace. I experimented with everything under the sun and came to a striking conclusion. I could actually attach a ball to the character to make the movement more slope-friendly. This idea worked so well that the developers of Pirate Adventure 2 used it too. Not that there's any correlation, but it's fun to think about, considering there's like a 3-year age gap between this second version of Asset Test Palace and the release of PA2. This second iteration of Asset Test Palace became home to the new ball attachment idea, poles that the player could hang from, some jump through platforms, some really cool level snippets with callbacks to Sky Sanctuary and Crisis City, and eventually I made the homing attack. That's right, Turbo Boost became the first Roblox Sonic game to have a consistently functional homing attack. It took about a month to actually finish this first revision of the homing attack, but it was there and it was beautiful. I had also taken the chance to solidify boost mode and updated the interface a bit. I made the unique decision to have boost mode drain your ring count instead of relying on a boost gauge. That was mostly due to my inexperience, but it did have massive effects in the future. Somewhere in the midst of all this, another Planet Wisp was born. But that eventually buckled under the weight of the fact that I wanted to do more but didn't know what I wanted more of. Even after centralizing everything in Asset Test Palace, I still wasn't sure where to start with anything, yet I wasn't willing to take any big steps either. At some point, I admitted to myself that I wasn't going anywhere with this, so instead of relying on other people, I took matters into my own hands and shifted gears into the beautiful world of feedback. This is the end of what I jokingly call the Planet Wisp era. Alright, so I have you here basically representing like a very, very old co-developer and friend who...
Yeah.
2016, 2017?
And earlier.
Oh yeah, Kasuda Memo, oh my god.
Flipnote Studio.
Oh my god, I almost forgot about that.
I mean, it's been a long time. I mean, I don't like to say I worked on Turbo Boost, but I helped with some of the things on it, I guess. Some of the assets that are in there, I guess I made those, some of them.
How did it feel working on this game with me being like an inexperienced kid who had no idea what he was doing?
I definitely learned everything about Roblox Studio and stuff that I know now when I was working with you guys. Never really worked on a game before I helped out with like Turbo Boost and stuff, and then I ended up starting my own projects. So I'd say without being part of Napkin Studio, I probably would have never started developing.
Was there anything that really stuck out during development?
I remember there was a period where I had just like, I don't know what had happened, whether I like didn't have internet or what,
but went on hiatus kind of, and then I came back and like you had like gotten so far into the game, and I was like, oh my god. And I was like, you're like, I was like, geez, he's doing a good job on this game.
Right.
I remember like you started making progress really quickly.
Did you ever expect anything like to really come out of the project, whether it be something for you personally or like the project itself?
I mean, I like the idea of like maybe having my name up on a game that was like worked on, or like I don't know, just seeing my name up there was just like, I did something. But I wasn't expecting a game to blow up or to make money off of it or anything.
Does it feel exclusive being like the one person who's been developing on Turbo Boost the longest?
I wouldn't say it feels exclusive, but it's pretty cool. It's just like, it's hard for me to think about it like that, because that was like the first time I had started working on something, and I think there was another project I had started with you before Turbo Boost, which also went downhill. It was that one with the big, like, really ugly map that I made, and I just put like free modeled guns and stuff.
I remember. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you would like to add to this interview?
Well, working on the game definitely made me more interested in making games. I mean, it's probably one of the reasons I've gotten into computers as much as I have, just like learning how to code and stuff. Like with just Roblox, it's the reason I'm going to trade school to work on computers and stuff. If I hadn't done that like earlier on when I was like younger, I probably wouldn't have decided to go to school.
Yeah, and didn't you say you're doing like soft or security? What was it?
Network security, cybersecurity, basically.
Yeah, that's really neat stuff. Well, that's pretty much all I had planned to talk with you about today. Thank you for coming on.
Not a problem.
I'll see you around.
See ya.
Alright, so basically you're like representing a developer who's been with me for not incredibly long. There have been other developers who, have been here since 2016.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for reaching out, Cypher. I know it's been a long time, but glad to see that you're continuing with Turbo Boost and also the new games that you've been working on. I'm really happy for that. So about Turbo Boost, I started working on it around the end of 2019. I was part of the team that released NYC, New Year's City in Turbo Boost. That was arguably one of like the first official levels. But I think what I wanted to do with NYC was I would kind of present it as an official level. I wanted to take inspiration from other games, not just like the Sonic the Hedgehog series, kind of like Zelda even, or Mario 64, to make the levels feel immersive.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're in a city, right, maybe we can go through a building or go through a park or a parking garage or something. But right, because when you think of a city, the first thing you think of are roads, right? You think of the grid system, big skyscrapers. But then there's also, the alleyways in that go between the buildings. There's dumpsters, there's parks, there's attractions, there's even Ferris wheels. You never know. Those are things that kind of make the level feel alive, because when you add different, diverse things, those are kind of exciting for the player. So that's what I wanted to bring. I also made a couple of UI changes for like the boost effects. I made the boost meter. Yeah. Originally it was like a bar in the top. I was like, you know what? I kind of want to make it a little stylish. I took inspiration from the Generations kind of boost and made it in the bottom left, and it kind of had a nice flare when you had the full boost on there. And yeah, that's it. I mean, it was really a good first experience for me, right? Because that was one of the first real kind of games that I worked on, and I just wanted to gain a lot of experience on everything. And I'm really thankful that Cypher actually gave me the opportunity to do that and help me pick up my career.
How did it feel when we first started working, and it was like when I was more inexperienced and I was leading a team, kind of like bumbling and stumbling through everything? How did it feel working with me?
It was a little difficult. We all had a bunch of different ideas and different themes. A lot of the contributors, they kind of reused their assets that they made, which is totally fine, but there wasn't much cohesion. We all had many different opinions, and we didn't really come together on one opinion much. We kind of just did our own thing. I feel like it's definitely crucial that we're at least on the same page with each other, because sometimes you'll notice in NYC, some of the enemies and some of the buildings are kind of out of place. Different people made the different buildings, different assets.
It's like the equivalent of like crowdsourcing the entire thing.
But regarding you and your leadership, we did have meetings, so you had your expectations, you had your goals set, and that was the key. Setting your goals is a very important part,
Right.
because from like Seaside Hill, right? Like it was. I mean, you at least thought of it as kind of like a test level, so we kind of had to differentiate the test levels from an actual level, and having those meetings kind of helped me understand NYC being an actual level. It's that immersion. It's just that level of detail that's required.
Working on the team with you guys definitely did help me sharpen my mind a little bit, and I gotta thank you guys for that.
Oh yeah, same here, man. Same here.
What stuck out the most to you during development?
The difficulty in making a fictional place that also resembles a real place. Making a replica of something, right? You're pretty much copying the design. But when you actually have to make a place that looks like a real world place, but it's actually fictional, you have to also design it yourself. And it really made me realize just how difficult of a process design is. So like strategic design is when you have that huge design in the beginning, as I mentioned earlier, you have like the large roadmap of what you want the level to be. But your strategic design, it's a little ineffective to make it super detailed, because as you go through the development process, you're probably most likely going to change a few things around. Then comes the tactical design, which is the opposite, right? The tactical design, you're making on the fly, you're making it every week per se, every day even if you're that fast. It's like a design for a specific part as you go there. So in the beginning, when we had our first meeting, we would make a strategic design, but every week, right, or every sprint, in the developing sense, you would make a tactical design, which would be more plausible, because when you're doing the smaller details, it's better to think of that on the spot relative to the context of where we are now.
Did you expect anything to come out of the game?
I was expecting for it to be a learning experience, because I was really looking forward to working on a game like something in the Sonic the Hedgehog series, because at the time I was really passionate about that and passionate about platformers in Roblox. And I mean, I loved it. I gained so much experience on the front end side, on the UI side, and also in scripting, which is what my main goal was, but also in building side as well.
All right. Well, those are all of the pre-planned questions, but since it's very interesting, do you want to go over your whole career path and how this helped you, land your job and everything?
After TurboBoost, I stopped really contributing to TurboBoost after NYC, which I finished in around, I guess, April of 2020. So then I worked with a very close friend of Cypher's as well, and mine back in the day, so he was also working with us, and so I ended up working with on his game, Sonic Forces Forever, for like a couple months as well throughout the summer. Once again, just trying to get more experience, and I made like a lot more features in that game with the visual side. So I made something like a world map or something, which is actually pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of that. And that game had a bit more, actually a lot more visits. I think it ended up getting like 1 million by the end of 2020.
Yeah, I think so.
It exposed me to like a larger player base, and that was both a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing is like awesome that like if people are playing the game, having fun, but at the same time, it was a little stressful sometimes, because there was a lot of people who had complaints, a lot of people who wanted to add features, and it made me learn to prioritize my tasks. And that brings up the concept of a backlog. A backlog of tasks to do. I was learning how to do tasks in an effective manner and picking the right tasks that would be the most effective for the audience. So after that, I worked in some anime games for a bit. I got some experience with that. And then fast forward to like April of 2021, I worked with a guy who won a Bloxy actually in 2020, and I worked on his anime game, and it ended up getting like 20 million visits. It was a really amazing experience. I mean, I ended up becoming like one of the lead programmers.
Oh, really?
So yeah, because what happened was the old lead he retired, and I had to take up the position. I actually made some database frameworks, so I got a lot more back-end knowledge there. Like the front-end side, I didn't really work with, so it's kind of cool to like mess with the data and fix a lot of bugs.
Yeah.
And also earn a lot of side revenue, which was all just really, really rewarding. And also getting a lot of YouTube exposure for my game. That was a bit about the end of my Roblox journey. So around May 2021, I quit Roblox for my college career. While I was working on the Roblox stuff for the anime games, I was also starting college. So I started college or university in fall of 2020. I was pursuing my Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science. Around like 2021, I kind of had some harder classes, so I decided to stop working on Roblox. Because I also had like a summer semester in 2021, so I couldn't really focus on Roblox anymore. And then fall of 2021, I was like fully done with Roblox, and I actually started teaching at this school. I was doing some workshops for a class called Data Structures.
Oh, that's cool.
Just like you just cover arrays, linked lists, stuff like that, trees. Really cool.
Okay.
And I just became more and more of a scholar. And then in 2022, I actually got an offer with Facebook, and now I'm working as a Facebook engineer. I graduated in the spring of 2022, and yeah, that's it now. So right now I'm working remotely at Facebook as a software engineer, and I'm working on the Avatar Marketplace team. So that's actually rolled out last week, and it's pretty much very, very similar to Roblox.
Huh.
So actually, it's kind of funny because when I interviewed for Facebook, they actually asked about Roblox, because I actually put it on my resume, and they were pretty impressed by it. And they asked me a lot of questions about my teamwork experience, my impact, and honestly, I feel like, Cypher, your experience, my initial experience at Roblox really just paved the way for all this to happen in my career. So I really have to thank you for that.
Right, no problem.
But this just goes to show that, like, a small little game in Roblox can get you this far in life in only 2 years. So for those of you watching, I really hope that if you're considering like learning Roblox, I would tell you right now, it took me like I get like 2 months to start Roblox before I worked with Cypher. All I did was watch YouTube videos. I know Alvin Block still makes videos, developer portals, forums. Just have a learning mindset, and always challenge yourself. Always try something new. Don't stay in your comfort zone, because if you stay in your comfort zone, you're never going to learn anything. Right? So just try new things. Don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated by learning a new language or writing a lot of code. Just have a growth mindset, because I can't stress it enough. It's you only got one life. You're only going to be young once. You're only going to be going to high school once. And trust me, after high school, you're not going to have that much time to learn. While you're still a kid, while you're still in high school, you should definitely take that time to learn relevant skills, not just getting A's in classes, because getting A's only gets you so far.
Right.
But gathering skills having a passion for something, I feel like that's the most valuable thing a person could have.
Right. It's been great calling with you. Thank you very much for coming on.
And thank you so much for having me.
No problem.
It's nice to hear from you again.
Anytime. All right. I'll see you around.
Good luck. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Here we find ourselves in the Almost There era, which is the third generation of TurboBoost. So far, I gathered a bunch of my Discord friends into a dev team to work on Planet Wisp, but the team quickly fell through, so I finished the level design mostly by myself. What came of it was a really beautiful, intricate level with way many more alternate paths than necessary, but I learned the way I wanted to go with level design going forward. I made Gameland, added a boost mode, made another Planet Wisp which didn't get finished due to my enlarging ambition and equally enlarging unsureness, and finally made another asset test palace to update everything and solidify everything with a small tweak to make slopes more friendly and the huge addition of homing attack. That is actually a lot, I'm not gonna lie. But during my unsureness, I figured I'd take a moment to garner feedback, so I'd have an idea of what to tackle next. I posted a screenshot of the new Planet Wisp in a Sonic server and what do you know, Mustachio replied. Now with his attention, I asked for pointers on something I knew I needed to update. The interaction system. At that point, it was a laggy mess. You never knew if touching an object would actually do something, unlike Mustachio Sonic What Adventure, which had immediate reactions. I asked what his method was for that, and he told me the method his programmer used. So from there, I went back to Asset Test Palace and reworked the entire TurboBoost framework. With this fresh change, I realized I could add a couple more things to the game. I made these changes in what I dubbed to be the real Asset Test Palace. This included a few more assets like enemies and balloons, a sidestep and a stomp, slightly better acceleration, an update to the air dash, and I completely removed the automated light speed dash, got rid of the ball, and made one huge test level with callbacks to Sky Sanctuary and even my own game land. You know you're locked in for game development when you make callbacks to your own levels. Feeling ambitious once again, I rushed into development on another level. This one is famously known as Grand Metropolis. Unfortunately, I took the gameland approach of worrying about the level design solely and not working on the environment. If this doesn't raise red flags, I don't know what does. I did have the level mimic some segments of Sonic Heroes Grand Metropolis, but after watching gameplay videos of the Sonic Forces Grand Metropolis mod, I felt the need to be creative with this. I made entirely original splitting paths and even made new segments to replace the level design that I couldn't mimic with the Turbo Boost framework. There were really open-ended segments taking full usage of the boost mode and the wonky acceleration. As I was nearing the end of developing a level layout, I felt compelled to also make the game Xbox compatible. So alongside working on the level, I was also juggling Xbox compatibility and ironing bugs that popped up with the new Turbo Boost framework. All in all, this level was a mess and I was terribly worn out. I decided I was done running in circles, so I wrote a list of things I needed to add and refine before moving forward. I went back to the drawing board with Real Asset Test Palace, but this time I had a plan. I made a goal ring, refined Xbox integration and homing attack, and updated the animations a bit. After that was said and done, I looked to the infamous Sonic Unleashed for inspiration. I added homing attack animations and added QuickTime event panels, which were so difficult to make that I still use the same code to this very day because I can't bring myself to clean up this messy code. Ugh. Finally, I got to work on Windmill Isle. I made a couple assets and a small testing area just to get a feel for the lighting and how I wanted the level to play out. It ended up not playing out how I was hoping it would play out, but I digress. I enlisted the help of someone named Seth the Mysterious, or the Chicken Gamer for using their YouTube name, to help with structural assets like houses and that big church-like building. I'm still happy with how the environmental assets turned out. They captured the same sleek, minimal design that was in the UI. I mean, there's not much else your UI design can be when it takes inspiration from Sonic Forces, but When I actually got to work with the level design, I sort of settled with everything I did. The level layout was uninspired, and my attempts at breathing life into the environment turned out to be lifeless, unlike the way it turned out for Planet Wisp. Not actually knowing where to put my efforts turned the level into a jumbled mess of whatever. I even settled with not having the level be as long as I envisioned because I wasn't sure how to make it fun and organic. After a while, I just placed the goal ring somewhere and called it a day. From here on, I was throwing level ideas at the wall and keeping note of what stuck. I made another Gameland level which actually was pretty fun and featured 3 completely distinct level routes. I tried to make an Emerald Coast level, but I couldn't bring myself to make any sort of level that didn't fit the current gameplay style. And that's actually something newer developers should take note of. Yeah, you can take inspiration from things, but if something doesn't fit the current gameplay style, whether that be levels or new mechanics, don't try to force that square peg into a round hole. Unless you're aware of what you're doing, like when I made that joke level which was supposed to take a jab at Iron Fortress, but it's so far off you can't really even call it that. It was so visually unappealing, which I guess was the point. The level layout harkened back to some old Turbo Boost level design, which wasn't too bad an idea. Actually, that's what I did going forward. I started pulling inspiration from the past and put it all under the light of my maturing understanding of Roblox's development tools and game design in general. This resulted in the level that absolutely made Turbo Boost what it is today. At the butt end of this almost there era, I made a commitment to focus on one word: versatility. I'd make one action-packed path through a level and then go back and touch up the environment before adding more to the level layout. That way, if I wanted to add alternate paths, it'd be possible to have them organically depend on the environment, something similar to the way Planet Wisp's alternate paths were laid out. I also realized that any inorganic structures could be designed to work on top of the existing landscape, sort of like actual real-life structural development, who'da thunk? All of this came together to make Seaside Hill. This level focused on fast-paced, non-stop movement at the core of its level layout, with a stop-and-go platforming being reserved for players less accustomed to the controls. You start off with the hike up a... what is this? Is it a hill? Is this a hill? Okay, whatever. Which leads you to a drop onto a sand pile between 2 waterfalls. You then make your way up to the entrance of a palace containing winding paths and whale statues. And yes, this is actually a palace this time. At this point, I experimented with having the background areas look like they'd be something akin to alternate paths, just to make the abstract layouts feel a little less forced. And it did kind of pay off by making you wonder if those areas are accessible or not. I mean, it actually is accessible if you know what you're doing, but 99% of the people aren't going to go up there. In the palace, you loop around to some QuickTime panels which shoot you out towards the exit. A wide turn takes you around to a waterfall canyon sporting open-ended level design with a couple ways to reach one of the 2 exit paths. Either way, you end up on another line of inorganic structures which ultimately take you to another palace, with branching paths that run towards the end. And from this simple outline of a level came substantial organic side paths, which either serve to maintain your flow or accommodate the boost mode. Speaking of boost mode, I took the fact that it drains your rings and I ran with it. Players hungry for speed would need to explore the level to find ring deposits. They'd also have to play carefully, because every second they spend boosting, the easier it is for them to lose all their rings, touch a spike, and die. At this point, I asked myself if I should make rings respawn. I simply told myself no. That way, if a player collects all the rings in one path, they'd have to take another path if they want to keep up the speed. And if they nab all the rings in the level, then they'd either have to restart the level completely or push through from their current position at a harder difficulty. It became a vital piece of the risk and reward gameplay and added that much more depth to the intricacies of the game. The way I approached level design in Seaside Hill became the staple for level development moving forward. Main path first, environment second, side paths third, and then adjustments for boost mode last. This was integral to the following generations. Everything I had learned up to this point came to a make-or-break moment in what I call the finished old era. This 4th generation of Turbo Boost basically harnessed the power of everything I went through so far, and especially from the last era, which moved everything over to a new framework, added sidestep, stomp, while removing the ball physics and the automated light speed dash. It also introduced Xbox compatibility, QTE panels, and homing attack animations. Grand Metropolis made me realize I need to plan ahead before making levels. Windmill Isle made me realize how important level environments are and how important it is not to drag along something you're not passionate about. And Seaside Hill taught me to solidify my expectations for the gameplay instead of winging it constantly. To keep myself from feeling unsure of where to start again, I got to work on what I was hoping would become the game's first level and tutorial, Havoc Harbor. With this level, I wanted all players to understand the gameplay expectations. You learn how to play, and then learn how integral rings are to your playthrough. I wanted it to capture the spectacle side too, by using high-speed segments and cinematic camera angles. Here's what the main path teaches you. How rings are beneficial, how homing attack and air dash work, how to stomp and slide, how alternate routes can be as simple as touching a spring, how the 2 different enemies work, how to sidestep, and finally how cinematic this game can be. Then it's all thrown at you in the end for a small, adrenaline-pumping shot towards the goal. It's exhilarating. And the best part about it is how concise it is. The level was originally going to be twice as long and much more complex, but a mixture of optimization problems and an understanding of how detrimental useless depth is prevented me from doing that. This level and this game aren't super complex, and they don't need to be. As a note for rising game developers, don't force complexity into things that don't need it. Plan things out, and figure out what's necessary and what's not. Like, if you're planning to take inspiration from the Sonic Unleashed moveset, you don't need to spend time adding that unnecessary spin kick. It does absolutely nothing but add useless complexity, and you could literally spend that time on anything else. No one's gonna miss it. With Havoc Harbor being done, that's when I came to the realization that this is my game. The same game I'd been hoping to make way back in the Planet Wisp era. This was all I ever could have wanted. But the more that sank in, the more I felt done with this game. But I couldn't be done. This was just the tutorial. Regardless, I didn't know what to do. Between the development of Seaside Hill and Havoc Harbor, I'd gotten to work on Roblox Runners, which is inspired by Sonic Runners, and I was seriously considering putting that on full focus for a while. But you know how difficult that'd be? Dropping your full 3D game for a 2D endless runner, which was a mess to work with anyway? Unthinkable. I shot down that thought and wondered what else I could do. After finishing Roblox Runner's first level and putting development for that on pause, I thought about doing what I had done before and looked for feedback on the game in its current state. I found a couple gameplay videos on YouTube and saw how fun the game looked. I felt inspired by my own game. And that's when it hit me. I should make an open source Sonic framework, said nobody ever. Except me. Being a not really Sonic sound engine developer, does Turbo Boost ever inspire you when it comes to like game development?
When I first played Turbo Boost, which was like a year ago or something, the game was functioning really well and the stuff in the game was polished. I was definitely amazed.
Glad to hear it. Does it ever like push you to polish the stuff in your game more?
For sure. Your game is like a role model.
Have you ever wanted to like take what Turbo Boost offers, like, you know, using the framework and making your own sort of unique game with it?
Well, when I was learning how to code, I used the framework as a base to learn and stuff. I used it before, yes, but it was more of a resource to me.
Okay. So not really just like straight ripping it and plopping it into something that you made. In your eyes, does the game have any sort of like legacy? Do you think it's going to make really a big impact in the Roblox game scene in general? Even outside of like Sonic fan games?
Honestly, I think it's a 50-50. The game is really good, and it probably might undry the Roblox Sonic community. It might also make the front page, who knows honestly.
Yeah, at this rate, I don't even know. As the last question, have you ever found yourself like borrowing ideas from TurboBoost?
Yes, I'm not really good at making maps, so I sometimes use TurboBoost's maps as inspiration.
Oh, that's heartwarming. Thank you very much for doing this interview.
Will you marry me?
We could get proposed and we'll see what happens after.
Let's get it, guys.
Let's get it, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my god. So this is gonna be like the one and only time the voice quality of, you know, anything in this entire video is gonna sound different because I'm not in my car and I'm actually by the water near these beach houses and it's about to start storming. But I just thought I'd, you know, still have you on here anyway to like, I guess, represent a part of the community that doesn't use Sound Engine.
Yeah, I was introduced to Sound Engine by Koniku. I was playing one of his games, and he knew that I was kind of good at Roblox Studio. So he asked me to, you know, help develop with him. It helped me learn a lot about coding. And, you know, now I'm pretty good at coding, I guess.
The first question is, did TurboBoost ever inspire you?
Yeah, I think it's just the decoration and the general level design. It looks pretty good, and because of that, I really like to revisit the game from time to time.
Has it ever challenged your own expectations for game development?
Yeah, one thing I remember is a post you sent somewhere, how you use a trick that Pirate Adventure did to determine slopes, something like that. Because I got me thinking of ways I could do something like that.
Thinking outside of the box is definitely a big thing when it comes to development, but also developing on Roblox too, since it's kind of limited. The font system that you've been showing off, that's some really neat stuff there.
Thanks.
Those are really the questions I had lined up for you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
So having you here to sort of like represent the pre-Sound Engine developers, you've worked on things, you know, for a pretty long time before Sound Engine released.
I worked before Sound Engine for like 2 or 3 months until I met you on Discord. You showed me the Sound Engine, which I found very cool to be a base framework.
Did TurboBoost ever inspire you, whether it be things that you put in your game or just the way you approach level design or like game design in general, pretty much anything?
So one of the things that inspired me from TurboBoost was basically these orbs that shoot you up in the sky. I implemented kind of the same mechanic in SFF, but instead of being a orb, it was a spring. I used that idea of having like orbs and everything, which I obviously changed this in a little bit, in order to implement the power-ups in SFF, like the blue orbs for refilling your boost, the white orbs in order to save you from falling to death, and then the fireballs orbs. And the other thing is basically seeing that it's possible to actually make a Sonic game in Roblox. Not intended to be like something like Sonic Unleashed or Unleashed, but the idea of having a platforming game inspired in a Sonic style, that is something that really inspired me to game. So your game, Turbo Boost and Sonic Forces Reboosted, were my two major inspirations to make my own game.
Yeah, I actually forgot about Reboosted. I didn't play it until like earlier, and I was like, oh my god.
It's not like you should try it. No, it's a you must.
Right. It's like a cult classic, yeah. Honestly. Has TurboBoost ever challenged your ideas of like game development in general?
One will be the level design. In your game, you have more open level design and exploration than doing something more linear and fast platforming, you know? And that is something challenging for me, my own self, to achieve, because I don't have the patience to do such a big map, you know? The other challenge that I faced, well, the idea of coding your own game, because back then I didn't know coding and it was a nightmare, even just trying to change a coding and I just break it. But
right.
Nowadays, it's not such a big problem, but back then, it was a big problem, and I will always have to rely on you and other people.
Does the game have any sort of legacy in your eyes, whether it be like in Roblox specifically or the Sonic fan game scene as a whole?
For the Sonic fan game itself, not really. But when it comes about the Roblox, and at least in my point of view, and the circle of developers around me, like Mr. Blue Jeans, Hatchblocks, and other games that have used the sound engine, it does have a legacy. Not really the game itself, but you as a persona.
Wait, what?
And honestly, seeing that you basically took part of your own Turbo Boost to give a chance to other developers to make games with the sound engine and stuff like that, it's very charming and something that I really see as a really nice thing coming from you, and that's why I have respect for you and also respect for Turbo Boost, because if I was you, I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't give even a downgraded version of my engine, I wouldn't give it to other people, and eventually you did, and it helped me to learn how to script, make my game, and eventually have joy and meet other developers. And probably the same thing happened with other developers, all thanks to you and your Turbo Boost. So, yes, I do see that as a legacy.
How does it feel to have been one of the biggest showcasers of sound engine?
Well, it's very nice that people see it in a very positive way, and honestly it makes me happy because it's been 3 years ever since I've been using the sound engine, and it's been a long journey with working on that game, working and making new friendship with developers, including yourself when I first met you and stuff like that. So overall, I'm very happy about it, and knowing that SFA is one of the best games with the sound engine is honestly really cool.
Before we go, is there anything you'd like to add?
Not really much to say.
Well, it was nice having you on here.
It was nice to be in your interview and everything. I'm happy to be part of it, and it was nice having a talk with you during this afternoon.
Yeah, well, no problem. You have a good one.
You have a good one as well. See ya later, huggies, and good luck with the other guys.
No problem. Thank you. See ya.
No problem. See ya.
So has Turbo Boost ever inspired you when it comes to game development?
It has quite a bit. It was what got me into trying to code my own mechanics and improving my level design and coding skills.
Has it ever challenged your own expectations for your own game design?
Yes, it has. There's been times I've managed to code things I thought I couldn't do. For example, I managed to code a destructible crates, the air ring and spring system being able to align you to the endpoint, air fans, and a few other things.
So basically, it pushed you to, see how far you can go.
Yep.
Have you ever wanted to take the things that Turbo Boost offers and, build off of it in your own unique way?
Yes, it has. It's what inspired me to work for Plasma and improve on it.
Oh, that changes things. Does it empower you to know that, your game could also inspire other people?
It already has inspired people. Well, not inspire but try to copy my success and fame from Sound Engine. I always see people trying to make a game like Sound Engine Plus, but it never meets or exceeds the quality of that. I just wish people would just try to not copy and instead make something original, instead of making a game like mine and calling it something like Sound Engine Advanced or something like that. I'm fine with people getting inspired off of my games, just don't try to directly clone.
In your eyes, do you think that Turbo Boost has any sort of legacy?
Yes, it's what got Sound Engine to be made. If Turbo Boost was never made, we wouldn't have Sound Engine. Albeit Sound Engine has a more negative legacy, but it has its rare instances of being used the right way.
I feel like I would say, even though it does have its negatives, it's kind of a net positive in a way. It's just that it does have its growing pains.
Yeah, I would agree.
But yeah, that's it. Is there anything else you want to add to it?
I have nothing to say besides check out Sonic Plasma when it comes out, because it's my latest game and it shows the most improvement in my work and is more fun than my previous games. The game should be out soon and have 1 or 2 levels at launch that are extremely fun to play through.
Have a good day. Thank you for coming on here.
Thanks for interviewing me. See ya.
See ya. Alright, so basically, I had you on here to sort of represent part of the, I guess if you would describe your development experience as exclusively Sound Engine.
Well, I don't use Sound Engine anymore, but I did, yes, in the past.
Did Turbo Boost ever inspire you when it comes to game development?
When I was first developing my game, Sonic Awaken, when I was using Sound Engine. It definitely inspired me because I was good friends with the creator of Sound Engine, and I kind of wanted to be like one of the good Sound Engine games, and Turbo Boost was a good Sound Engine game. So I definitely took inspiration, and it inspired me to make my game.
Has it ever changed your expectations for game design, whether it be like what you think you can accomplish, or if it's just like game design as a whole?
When I'm going to mention my game again, Sonic Awaken, when it was first in its Sound Engine state, I would always constantly make green hills, and I would also play Turbo Boost's levels to kind of, see how I could do better with the level. And for example, like multiple pathways, Turbo Boost has a lot of pathways, and I wanted to do that instead of making a linear level,
Yeah. Have you ever wanted to take what Turbo Boost has to offer and like make your own little unique thing with it?
Surprisingly, no, because I feel like if I were to build off it, I feel like the game wouldn't have as much charm as it does now with the original creator of Turbo Boost. So I feel like I wouldn't have the same charm as the game would,
Do you see the game having any sort of legacy, like in terms of Roblox games and Sonic fan games as a whole?
A lot of games have used the Sound Engine, which Turbo Boost is making, but what's different with Turbo Boost is that the creator of Sound Engine is making that game. So I feel like the legacy of Turbo Boost could be like original Sonic engine being made on Roblox, which is pretty unique.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I see it as. A very good Sound Engine game, and probably the best Sound Engine game.
Have you ever found yourself like borrowing ideas from Turbo Boost at all?
In my Sound Engine State of Awaken, yes. When designing my levels, of course. I just really liked how the levels were built. They had multiple pathways, they had good detail in them. They had good and unique ideas inside the levels, which I really wanted to kind of do in my levels.
Bonus question. If you could rip anything straight from Turbo Boost and put it into Awakened and give it like the Awakened style and everything, what do you think it would be?
I really do like the quick time events, and if I were to make that in Awaken, or any game in that matter, and have it in the style that I would want it to be, it would be very cool. And the game also has good quick time events in Turbo Boost, especially in like a lot of the levels, like the city level and all that. So yeah, I would take the quick time events.
It was nice having you on.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a good one.
You too.
Alright, so I kind of have you here to represent a part of like the Sound Engine exclusive devs, even though I know you don't 100% always use Sound Engine, but I know you're still using it. So do you think that's like a accurate description?
Yeah.
The first question is like, did Turbo Boost ever inspire you in any way?
Well, I actually found out about Sound Engine first, and after Sound Engine I found about Turbo Boost.
Has the game ever challenged your own expectations for game development?
Well, not exactly. Anything I saw in Turbo Boost I was like, I don't think I can make something similar like that for my skills. I can really see you put hard work in it.
Does the game have any sort of legacy in your own eyes?
Well, I guess so, but it was pretty rare seeing high-quality Sonic fan games on Roblox back then. Still really thankful you made an engine that gives the possibility for anyone that wants to make a Sonic fan game.
Alright, well that's all I really had for you, so thanks for coming on.
No problem. See ya.
See ya. With all the framework test demos that were floating around at the time, like Bumper Engine, Dash Engine, Project Hero, and Infinity Engine, just to name a few, I realized I could probably jump on the bandwagon myself and make an open source engine of my own. Something that salvaged some of my favorite concepts from Sonic Forces and translated it all into a small, unified Boost gameplay experience. I put some gloves on and got my hands dirty. It only took me about a month to create the moveset and interactive objects. I copied some assets from Roblox runners just to make development a little easier, and I kept the black outlines because they look cool. Plus, what other Roblox games has black outlines on its objects? Well, Sonic Roblox games anyway. I then copied a couple Turbo Boost assets, like the enemies, spikes, balloons, and buttons. And then from there, I coded everything from the ground up using my current skill set. I made a Mach-based acceleration, which is just as clunky as it is in Forces, and then there's Stomp, Homing Attack, Double Jump, and Boost. The latter of which requires you to hold the button instead of it being a toggle. It still drains rings, but I removed the minimum ring requirement for boosting. Technically. Taking a page out of Sonic Generations' book, activating Boost costs 5 rings, and then another 1 ring for each second you continue boosting. Also, boosting mid-air shoots you upward in an arc, similar to the boost arc in Sonic Forces. Then I took a page out of Sonic Colors' book and mapped the air dash to the boost button, so it's only a normal air dash when you have no rings. This allowed me to keep double jump and homing attack both on the jump button, like a sane person. After that month of developing the gameplay was over, I dubbed the project Sonic Sound Engine. Shout out to Shout out to X Kindred Kinesis on Twitter for creating the official logo based on my initial idea. Yeah, I'm an idea person, woohoo! And then got to work on Sky Sanctuary as the test level. This level would showcase the capabilities of the engine and how reliant it is on good level design, somewhat similar to Turbo Boost. It featured high-speed platforming with alternate routes, sort of like Turbo Boost. There are some sections you can only reach if you understand how the controls work. Hey, hold on! This is a lot like Turbo Boost. Sure, I made both of them, but that doesn't mean anything in particular. If anything, it means combining the two would be a pretty darn good idea. The best part is that it means I wouldn't need multiple asset test palaces. I wouldn't need to update things on a whim only for a certain level, meaning no more feature creep. This would be the defining framework for Turbo Boost. I definitely encourage young developers to be aware of feature creep. That basically means trying to add unnecessary features into a game without understanding how the systems or features should correlate. For example, you don't need spin dash, boost, and peel out in the same game when they all basically do the same thing. This also includes adding unnecessary depth to things that should be simple by nature, like the homing attack kick in Sonic Lost World versus using regular homing attack. It's best to plan out how all the different systems affect each other, and if you do decide to have two features that are similar, make sure there's a reason for that. If you can't justify it with reasons other than because I want it in the game, chances are you don't actually need it. Okay, in the editing of the audio for this video, I realized I was a little indirect with my definition of feature creep. When I was talking about the correlation of systems, it's sort of like, think of the broader implementation of the systems. I did mention peel out, spin dash, and boost, but I also overlooked one important thing. They all interact with the environment in different ways. Peel out puts you into a more vulnerable state, but you're influenced by the terrain way less. But you're also given more control to accommodate for that. Spin dash puts you into the ball form, which gives you a little more security but less control while also being more influenced by terrain. And boost is just something you can do on the go. But most 3D Sonic Roblox games don't have slope physics, so the difference between all these things are very minute. Now if it's like, boost drains rings but you can do it on the go and you go a little faster, meanwhile you can stop and spin dash and it does go a little slower but you're not using your rings, stuff like that makes all the difference. But when the functional value of all these things are pretty much identical, then there's not much of a need for them. It just makes it a little more confusing for the player. You really need to jot down what all your systems do and figure out the most efficient way to get your point across, for a lack of better words. But yeah, that's it. Worst thing of all is having a bunch of unnecessary and redundant features and excusing them all with useless complexity. Now, for what I was hoping would be the last time, I reworked the Turbo Boost framework using Sonic Sound Engine as a foundation. I added every core feature from the past, re-implemented every interactable object, and retooled the moveset to match Turbo Boosts, meaning sidestep is back and mock-based acceleration is out. And I switched boost back to a toggle because let's be honest, toggle boost sounds a lot like Turbo Boost. After hammering in the final nail, I got to work on a level named Paradise Park. The inspiration came from a cross between Roblox water park games and this really cool but misguided water park level from an old Sonic Roblox game that I can't seem to find, and I'm losing my mind over it because I want to credit the person. Anyway, Paradise Park would be the first fully original Turbo Boost level to have a name. The only problem is, this level would never see the light of day. It became something similar to Windmill Isle. I was just making a level to make a level. It had some cool gimmicks like a fountain that shoots you upward and some water slides, but nothing was planned and environments weren't coming to mind. So the level never got finished, nor has it made its way to the archives yet. So instead of reinventing the wheel, I figured I'd go back to a level I love dearly, and that level is Planet Wisp. No, I'm kidding, I'd never do that again. I'd have to be crazy to... Oh, okay. Well, yeah, no, it wasn't Planet Wisp, it was Seaside Hill. This time I made use of the changes Sound Engine brought to the table, like the double jump and air dash arc. I also updated the environment a bit, which allowed me to expand upon a couple of the side paths. What made this level even better was how easy it was to import the new Turbo Boost Sound Engine framework and just start making something. But it doesn't end there. You might be wondering, what else is there that this rambling kid still has to say? Well, I'm getting there. With the Sound Engine integration completed, I figured it was time to actually establish the update. Over the course of the framework merge, I jotted up a plan for the game's storyline, as well as some of my expectations for the game itself. This was meant to accompany the bit of loose planning I did somewhere between Grand Metropolis and Seaside Hill, with things like really vague level design philosophies and a list of expected level names. But when I took a step back, I realized how long it was going to take to accomplish my goals. Plus, the new year was coming up, and I wanted to start off with a bang for my small, dedicated following. I wanted something that would hold them over to the release of Turbo Boost's minimal viable product, meaning it's the game at its most bare-bones interpretation. Just a sheer, concise, potentially small experience. Think of it like having Sonic Adventure 1, but it's only Sonic's story, there aren't any bosses, and all the power-ups are already unlocked. If the game was released in that state, it would still be quote-unquote complete, just not fully expanded to the scale of its original vision. So to hold over my fans until that time, I came up with an idea so enormous that one small misstep could make me fumble the entire thing. Say hello to New Year City. New Year City at its most ideal was a level that could show off what exactly this new framework was made of, not using an existing Turbo Boost level and reworking it, but like made exclusively for this framework. And at the same time it serves as a tutorial, while also being a level that you could come back to many times. I was actually considering reusing Havoc Harbor assets and making Havoc Harbor 2 or something, but that just felt too small scale and it wouldn't capture the feeling of newness I was reaching for. If you think this level sounds ambitious, that's because it is. I knew I couldn't do it alone. I reached out to a couple of my old team members and a few other developers I'd met around the time who got my "I'll reach out to you when I need something" promise. I'd gathered us in a Discord group and named it Napkin Studio Revamped. I was serious about this. The first thing I did was get everyone on the same page about the project, and then the roles were assigned. Most went unfulfilled, but it was okay. We, and I can't speak for everyone, but we were determined. And to make sure credit is given where it's due, I'll name everyone with their contributions. The first assignment was to make general city and park environment assets. This was fulfilled by two developers, Burn and Winter LV. After we got the ball rolling, we started looking for inspiration for the level's atmosphere. The one that drew the most attention was this shot of New Ninjago City, so we went with that as the lead example. Another developer, Pineapple Dog, helped Winter LV and I work on buildings, while another developer known as Chep worked on a couple more environment assets. After that, I coded the fireworks and the rest was smooth sailing. I laid out the foundation for the streets and park zones, then blocked out boundary guidelines before adding objects and making layout adjustments. Burn, Chep, Winter LV, and I worked together to finalize the main level design. I did a little back and forth with everyone's layouts until we came to a good conclusion that made sense, while also adjusting my own layouts according to the feedback from the team. After that, Winter LV and Burn slowly dropped off, leaving me to work on the level design and Chep to work on visuals and background design. At some point, Chep even updated the speed meter, which looks absolutely amazing now. Thanks, Chep. What we all accomplished was beautiful to say the least. Chep designed some really lively backgrounds and made the whole level feel like a place more than a desolate level in a video game. Like, look at this bridge and the streets extending into the background. The level itself is pretty darn good. The level design was bombastic and detrimentally open-ended, but we have the grounds to rework the level. At this point, I'd realized how unified the game was as a whole. The visual design uses simple boxy geometry to make places that can never be real but could be if they wanted to be. The level design was really intricate, with all the paths and routes stringing together so that the fastest route is never predetermined. You actually have to learn the level and know where different paths are in relation to each other, as well as knowing where paths start and where they take you so that you can piece together a fast route of your own. For example, in New Year City, the main path presented straight ahead of the spawn takes you a long way around to the first big park. To the right, there's a second path which has a shorter route to the park if we're going the way the crow flies. But there are two buttons you have to find and press before you can access the park, just to keep execution time balanced between the two paths. There's also a small parking garage and a mini park between the two paths. What's the fastest route to the first big park then? Well, that requires you taking the first path, then traversing over to the parking garage to access the end of the second path right after the button puzzles. The best part is that none of this was planned when laying out the level layout. You kinda just figure it out on your own. There's a lot here for a new player and even more here for returning players, sorta like Green Hill Zone in Sonic 1. I stopped for a moment to garner feedback about the framework. I figured it was time to modernize things a little bit. I added camera effects that are tied into your acceleration, I added a drop shadow for improved depth perception, and I updated the remaining UI a bit. Now, after having taken a huge bite out of production with New Year City thanks to my team, I did the most counterintuitive thing you could imagine. I dissolved the team. From here, I felt it was only natural for me to only operate with one other member on board. That person was Chep for a bit of time. The big team craving tapered off because I personally didn't know where else to take the project. but I knew having only one other person developing the game with me would make the cloud of confusion a little less overwhelming. And now, it was just the two of us, walking into the unknown.
And honestly, best level, Turbo Town. Like, that was the one I had the most fun playing. Like that, especially with the whole you getting the actual swing pole working in a Roblox game.
Yeah. See, the funny thing is, it's the easiest thing ever. So it like moves your character to the center of the pole, right? And then it freezes it there. It plays the animation, and when you press space, it uses the like direction that the torso is facing from the animation. Instead of like,
my god.
Yeah, instead of like actually rotating it around, it's just like this really ghetto method.
But it still worked out.
It still
Look, I say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. Now, this was actually something I wasn't planning on adding, but then my co-dev, he kind of just like put it in. He was like, yo, it'd be so cool if we had a cave section. I was like, let's do it.
I suck in your game. That's probably the only one. Don't talk about that.
This entire game's ghetto, I'm not even gonna lie.
Hey, I mean, like, I said before, it worked. If it works,
it works. Right.
It don't matter if it's ghetto. Can I play it? Can I beat it?
It's functional.
Alright, then. Yo!
Yeah! So the first question is like...
Yeah, let's go back to this. Let's go back to the tower build. Let's just get back to the tower build.
What precedent do you think this sets for, like, Sonic fan games in general?
Sonic fan games? Like, what do you mean what precedent?
Like, if other people were to look at this and be like, hey, this exists, do you think the fan game scene would change at all?
Honestly, probably it would be like GT's effect on Bumper, because like how GT made Bumper more popular, or how Omens made Infinity more popular. I know it's Omens, but like it still did an impact.
Right.
Like it's probably gonna do the same thing for Sound Engine, because I noticed you used that with this. And it's probably gonna do the same thing. I'm not gonna hold you.
Right.
I know some fans are gonna be able to eat this up since it's on Roblox. It's free. You don't even need a big computer to run it. Like,
right, you can.
GT, you need a bit of a good computer. Home, you need a good computer. Any Infinity Engine game, Dash Engine games, like you need someone of a decent PC to run them.
Right, I made this on my all-in-one touchscreen computer. Like.
Yeah, so like you can do this. Like you can play this on not heavy computers. So a lot of fans I see are gonna use this.
Right. Was there anything particular about the game that, like, stood out to you?
I definitely level design, because it's like if you took a Sonic, like, it's not like GT Open where you can go everywhere, like go and like, have I'd say at least 15 minutes in a level just to explore everything, but it's definitely, like, more open than the average fan game level.
Right.
My skill's amazing.
The stream disconnected, it didn't catch that.
Alright, good. You'll know what happened. You need to restart it. You need to restart the stream. Definitely. I don't know, I feel like it was a bit slippery.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I think, the most I can say. Like, not hero slippery, but not, like, fully still either. Like, there'll be some times where, like, even, like, earlier when I was playing, it happened right there, where, like, I just missed the jump because I overshot, but it was too slippery, so...
Yeah, I was gonna say that is something that I have heard a lot of, and it was, like, especially before I added Stomp, I heard a lot of it, but I tried to alleviate as much as I could with, like, the drop shadow and adding Stomp and everything.
Yeah, I didn't even notice the drop shadow until recently, like, when I'm recently opening, I'm like, oh, wait, that's the thing. I don't know, probably just because, probably because of open circle, that's why. I don't know, maybe.
The open circle is also something I struggled with, because I was like, should I leave it a closed circle or open circle? And
I feel like closed circle would, I don't know, because some of the areas have too much shadow, so it's like...
Yeah.
Even if it's closed or open, you're not going to notice it sometimes.
Right. But I also kind of left it... I kind of also left it
I missed
open
this
to see
thing.
like what you're landing on, because like say you're above a spike and it's like a singular spike and it's a closed circle, you're not gonna see it.
That's fair.
Were there any specific flaws you noticed in like in terms of like both ideas of like mechanics and then execution of mechanics, like two separate things?
Like, it's exploded.
He saw the D-Rank and he reset. He just pressed reset.
Idea-wise, the quick time events, I love them being back, but it does need a bit of polish, because what's it? It's not like polish, but like, more like, so you know how much time you have left, and which ones you already have pressed. Also, some of them are just a bit...
It shows you how much time. It shows you how much time you have left.
I know it does, but it's like, not noticeable until you actually like see it later. Like, it works aesthetically, but I feel like it should probably be like a different color or something to pop out more. Just a clip of my Steam library right now, just like show the side games.
Just like verify. Just gotta verify.
I'm gonna Sonic. I swear I'm gonna Sonic. I'm not gonna. I don't know, this is a bit wonky.
You can only do it at top speed.
No, but like, I'd be at top speed, but then it's like, no boost. Might not even be able to take the path now because
no rings. It's tied to your rings.
Oh, dude, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
I'm out here thinking that the boost is just bugged. No, I was just no rings.
Yeah, no, it's tied to your rings. It was a decision I made like sort of early on in development.
What? Nah, I completely forgot about that gimmick.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, wait, why am I not being able to boost? What, no boost?
No,
boost?
No just?
no rings. Just no rings?
No rings?
But yeah, no, overall, I did this exact same thing today. I'm gonna throw a water ball at my PC.
You should at this rate. You're doing this
So
for yourself.
If I load up GT or Gens right now, you're gonna see me pop off, but if I stay on this, I'm just gonna...
You're gonna keep stopping.
Right now.
You're gonna keep stopping.
Don't question what I'm doing,
What is
just
that?
know it exists.
What is that?
Don't worry about it.
What just happened?
Don't worry about it.
I'm cutting all of
Anyway,
this
that's
out
all the time we have.
I'm cutting all of this
That's
out
all
of
the time we have today.
I'm
That's all the time we have today, folks. Hope you enjoyed the interview. Please check out the game, and I'll see you all later.
Alright, so I kind of have you here to sort of represent, like, you know, the group of people who haven't, you know, played Roblox that often, but you've played, you know, Turbo Boost for a good amount of time, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I just wanted to just ask a couple questions, you know, see how you feel about it. The first question is, like, what precedent do you think this sets for Roblox games?
I think it's pretty innovative. Like, I've never seen something like that built in Roblox, even just from, like, YouTube videos or whatever my friends are playing. Really cool. Never seen anything like it.
Do you think it, like, sets a precedent for the Sonic fan game scene as a whole?
Yeah. I think it stands out from the crowd when it comes to Sonic fan games and stuff. Like, there's not a lot of fully 3D fan games where it would be, you know, you have all these movement options and stuff. Usually it just sticks to running.
Was there anything in particular that stood out to you while you were playing?
The way the levels were designed and the different set pieces. Like with the Seaside Hill level, right?
Right.
You're going through, it looks kind of normal at first, and then all of a sudden you're in like this huge water temple. They've done that before in actual Sonic games, but this is like much more fun to explore and look around.
Bonus question. How do you feel like the ranking system plays into the entire experience?
I think it's actually a pretty good incentive to get better. Like a lot of games, you know, when you get a rank in a game at the end of a stage, you're like, okay, that was good, but I could do better, you know? So
Right.
It kind of incentivizes you to go faster or figure things out.
Were there any specific flaws that you, like, noticed in the game?
You know, that boost mechanic you guys have where it's kind of like Advanced 3 where, you run for a good amount of time before you start really getting fast. I thought that was cool, but I also thought it kind of interfered when you were platforming, because maybe you were going fast all of a sudden, and then now you have to make a precise jump onto a platform, and you might fall off or something. So
Yeah.
I did have a little bit of issue with that, but it wasn't anything too major. And also the jump dash is a little bit unpredictable at times, because sometimes you'd land perfectly onto the platform, other times you'd go flying off. It was more of just a skill issue, as they say. There's really not that many issues with the game. It's just some things were bigger than others, but that's probably just me because I never played Roblox. So.
All right, well, those were really all the questions I had for you, but did you want to add anything before we went?
Overall, the experience is pretty good. I like playing it. I'm definitely going to keep playing it some more. Get better at getting through these stages in a reasonable time. But it really opened up my mind to the fact that there's actually some really cool fan games on Roblox, and so I think I'm going to be exploring more of that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that. All
right, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice 69. Okay.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so I see definitely a lot of importance put on time, because if you don't meet the part time, you have to you lose points. So
yeah. So the first question I had planned was, do you think this sets a precedent for Roblox games?
Yeah, I have never really played a lot of Roblox games prior to this, so
yeah,
I'm not super sure where the scene is at right now, and if there's a lot of Sonic games. I know there's the official one, the Speed Simulator,
right,
which I've heard has been doing pretty well. But I will say though, the way this game recreates some of the modern Sonic mechanics is actually pretty solid. Aside from the modern Boost games, what other games inspired certain choices for designs in this game?
Well, SRB2 actually was the game that prompted me to make a ranking system and add the red rings.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I was playing it religiously, and I was like, oh my god, I'm obsessed with the emblem system. So I was like, let me take my own hand at it. So for the second question, is there anything in particular that stands out to you about the game?
I think the immediate thing that stands out to me is the mechanic we just saw just earlier, just how you have to actually build up your own speed and then burn rings to boost.
Yeah.
So it's it feels to me kind of not only a take on the boost mechanic from the modern Sonic games, but also boost mode from Advance.
And then the final question was were there any flaws in the gameplay that you've noticed?
I guess there were a few rough parts. I feel some parts could stand to be just a little bit more automated, just for the sake of consistency. Other than that though, one thing I really do like about this game though is that the way you can chain together a lot of different aerial actions, a double jump into a dash into a homing attack into whatever, that feels really nice to me. That's kind of one of the things that draws me to 3D Sonic is I know people will have their grievances with the homing attack and how it's used in the modern games, but I feel it's actually a really interesting mechanic to bring Sonic into 3D, because as I saw with Project Hero, you could use it to build momentum off of enemies. You could use it to cross gaps with enough skill.
Yeah,
there's so many cool things you can do with it. It doesn't just have to be chains for the sake of minor spectacle.
Yeah, but I never did.
Oh jeez.
Ooh,
oh god, I was
thinking.
beast moding there for a second.
Quick thinking.
I really like those segments where you have to think really fast on your toes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, especially with the camera. Ooh.
Yeah, we're really in the red. I do love the rank animations. I think they're very cute.
Alright, well, those are all the questions I did have for you. So, Is there anything you'd like to add before we go?
Honestly, I think that's about all I had to say. This is really fun. I'm excited to see like where the rehaul of this goes and how you choose to add to it in the future. Actually, there is one more question I'm curious about. How come there's no S rank?
It's gonna sound real ghetto, but because it doesn't fit on the screen.
Okay, you know what? Fair.
Because I was like, I want it to start with D rank and then work its way up. So then I was like, okay, D, C, B, A, and then I was like, I can't really fit S on there, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. All right, well, thanks for coming on. Well,
yeah, have a good one.
You too. I sat and did a little bit of thinking. There had to be a little something more I could add to tie the entire experience up into a nice little package. Like, if I'd stopped development at any point in time, there had to be enough there to satisfy the player. Normally this happens by actually making the minimum viable product, which I was promising would follow the development of New Year City. But if I'm being honest, at the moment, I had no intention of actually working on the levels for that. Regardless, I wanted it to be like Sonic Roboblast 2. That game's only level could be Green Flower Zone and it'd still feel complete. What I'm trying to say is, I basically wanted New Year City to be its own MVP. If this singular level was the only level to exist, I wanted players to be satisfied by a mechanic that tied the entire experience together intricately. Speed, versatility, boosting, rings, all of that. Everything just mushed together in one master mechanic. And it was something I'd been holding out on for a while because I wasn't too confident in my skills. But that moment was the time. The deed had to be done. I added red rings and a ranking system. This was exciting for me. This made Turbo Boost a lot more than level design and flashy visuals. This made Turbo Boost an MVP product that I'm still proud of to this day. My little cult following was pooping bricks on the day I decided to add this. The red rings were there to encourage exploration, just for the people who felt there wasn't enough of an incentive for it. And it also kind of set me free from the people who wanted me to add the 10 rings back into the game, since red rings also add 10 rings to your counter. So, that's exciting. Want to know what else made my little cult poop bricks? I added a ranking system. The only reason I brought up SRB2 earlier is because at the time I'd been playing that game religiously, and I was obsessed with the game's emblem system. In that game, not only can you find emblems within the level, but you also get ones depending on whether or not you beat the level with a certain amount of rings or under a certain time. Since I'd started pulling from that game, I developed a similar threshold system for the ranking system. You have the ring emblem, the time emblem, and the 5 red rings. All of these 3 things are what gives you a good rank. Say a level has a ring emblem threshold of 150 rings. For every ring you collect, you get 2 points. If you have 150 rings or more, then you get the ring emblem and an additional 50 points. Say the level also has a time threshold of 2 minutes. If you beat the level in 2 minutes or less, you get the time emblem and a flat 50 points. But if you take any longer, you don't get any points from time. You actually get 1 negative point for each second over the 2 minutes. And then every red ring you collect counts for 20 points towards the score. But the best thing about those is that they save. So if you collect all 5 in a level, you're guaranteed 100 points on every playthrough after that. Meaning if you want an A rank, it's probably a good idea to do it after collecting all the red rings. And speaking of an A rank, those are brutal to get. Everything, and I mean everything, comes into play. The system might seem weighted towards rings, but you're gonna have to burn through a good amount of them if you want to make it through the level in a fast time to avoid the time penalty. Plus, as mentioned before, the game's been balanced to make it so there's no predetermined fast path. And if there is, chances are it won't have too many rings on it. Meaning that you have to learn where all the ring deposits are, learn how to weave between those in the optimal route, and collect a red ring or 2 for an easy 10 rings. And not only that, but you also have to watch when you're boosting because it's still a toggle, so you're gonna have to come to a complete stop if you want to stop boosting, meaning you're probably gonna add another 2 seconds to the timer to get back to top speed if you boost at the wrong time, and another 2 seconds is another 2 seconds closer to the threshold, but if you already passed it, then it's 2 points taken off your total. I hope you see the genius in that. This ranking is pure arcadey bliss, and as you'd imagine, it impacted the level design immensely. And yes, I believed for a moment that it was just gonna feel like it was tacked on at the last moment, so I put it all together in what I thought would be the final asset test palace. I made some mock level snippets to put all of this to work. This resulted in an asset test palace that's an absolute blast to play. This test level felt like it could be an actual game. And then I realized, I did it. I reached my goal. If I had stopped with this, it'd feel like the only thing this game needed to be complete was a couple of levels. An MVP was born out of everything I'd worked on for years. At this point in time, though, Chep became slowly disinvolved with the game's development since he'd kinda moved on to other things. So I reached out to other people to partner up with in a little dev duo. I went through the motions with a couple other people, but then I reached out to someone named Pineapple Dog. He'd originally messaged me on Twitter with interest in Roblox runners, but since I was already expecting that game to weather out, as it eventually did, I just told him to hold that thought. I eventually brought him on board for the development of New Year City, and then dissolved the team. But I knew we had a really good energy and mutual workflow, so I asked him to help me out with the next level and he happily accepted the offer. I think. Either that or he's locked in his basement begging for mercy to work on other projects. Pick your poison. We looked at the next level I had lined up for the MVP level list, Turbo Town. We got to work, blocking out a big but more straightforward level. We bounced a couple concepts off each other, blocked out some fun ideas, and then he struck me with a very unique concept. A village sandwiched between a town's shoreline and an aquatic travel dock. I fell in love with the idea instantly. We got to work on a very messy first draft, but the basic atmosphere and level flow had been established. After being on the same page as each other for what we expected the level to be like, we deleted the entire level and started over again, now following the structure of setting down the main path first, then the details, and then everything else last. We ran a few public test runs and made adjustments according to feedback, and then I worked on breathing life into the level with environmental assets and background elements. Look at these cute little villagers playing hide and seek, isn't that so cute? It all resulted in another bombastic, open-ended blast, but through a suburban village untouched by the technology that plagues the streets of New Year City. Just by these two levels alone, a gameplay narrative has been established. The streets of New Year City confine the player with technology and man-made structures. The only way you could get breathing space was either by climbing on top of the buildings or reaching unnaturally zoned parks. And even with that, you still couldn't breathe because there's usually a bot breathing down your back. But Turbo Town's earthy structures and reliance on organic zoning and terrain gave the environment space to breathe. You're free to explore wherever you desire, and if we keep up this environmental story, it might create a game with an incredible legacy. Actually, this game's already creating a legacy. Let's talk about Sonic's sound engine for a moment. The name of the framework is in reference to how easily sound waves travel and multiply, and boy oh boy does it live up to its name. At the time of this video, the framework has sold 2,286 units. All of these people who aspired to make a fun level, or dare I say it, a game, have now been given the means to do so. I feel like it's once a week that I see another sound engine project pop up. Say what you want about the low-effort, uncanny project, but you cannot deny that this game is setting a standard for Sonic games on Roblox. I'd also like to note that Ian switched Stomp from R to F in his Sonic World Adventure game a little after Sound Engine took off, despite shooting down my suggestion to do so prior to that. Not to say Ian's only thought was, oh my gosh, Sonic Sound Engine, when he made that change, but come on, I feel like it's a little too much of a coincidence. It probably doesn't even matter, but it's the little things in life. It's pretty impressive what some people have managed to pull off with Sound Engine. There are projects like Sonic Forces Forever, Sonic Astral, and Sound Engine Plus to name a few, and even some other games like Robloxian Adventure, which isn't a Sonic-inspired game in the slightest, but it still uses the Sound Engine for checkpoint systems. A good handful of games have looked to TurboBoost for inspiration, or they look at games from other developers doing that. I've even tried to give pointers and advice to young devs who are willing to listen. And yeah, there's been a little bit of drama and infighting in the Roblox Sonic fan game scene, but it's still amazing how young aspiring game developers can work their way into experienced development in such a way that I have. It has the opportunity to be a beautiful community if we'd stop throwing a fit over everything and being petty. But even outside of the game's legacy for others, it's had a massive legacy for me too. The game's development has forced me to take steps back and look at the big picture when I'm confused. It's taught me that taking big steps isn't as scary as it's stacked up to be, and starting from square one shouldn't be that daunting either. Sometimes it pays to start over with a fresh mind, so I can apply the lessons I've learned up to that point. That way I can re-answer problems that were given slapdash solutions to the first time around. It also pays to plan things out ahead of time, so I have something to look at when I'm unsure of what the next step should be. The development of this game shaped my work ethic and taught me valuable life lessons at the same time. But another lesson I learned is that it's very important to acknowledge my shortcomings. And with that came the realization that Sound Engine is brutally flawed. From the way interactive assets are handled to the way unrelated things are handled within a singular script, it's incredibly messy, unoptimized, and difficult to modify. And the person who pointed this out was none other than Pineapple Dog. He then pitched the idea of making Sound Engine 2, so I gave him the green light. The thing is, he's the only one working on it. I have no idea what's happening with it, nor am I actively involved with the development, but it's thrilling. TurboBoost has a promising future cemented for itself, and with the promises that Sound Engine 2 will be easily customizable, that means there's no need to go through countless iterations. There will be one final asset test palace to merge the two together, and that's it. TurboBoost is on its way to completion.
Yeah. See if there's anything you can optimize. Yeah, but the thing is, the game was running. The game just released.
Listen, alright.
Wait, no, don't record yet. Don't record yet.
I'm already recording. It's a little too late.
Can I have the moderator role?
Mod is like not even if I'm being honest.
Imagine just slamming yourself into a mountain.
That would be fun. That would be fun. I would live for that. That would make me real. Real talk. Looking back at TurboBoost, looking back at TurboBoost, how do you guys feel about it? Like in its early days, or like whenever you guys started playing?
When I first started playing TurboBoost, I actually had a good time with it.
I hated Seaside Hill.
Boost broke my f***ing lap.
It just broke your laptop.
The whole game made me turn on.
Oh my god.
My laptop exploded in my face. Half of my face is gone right now. I have one eye.
You have one eye?
I'm a builder. Well design is just like bad because of it being very confusing a lot.
I smell a skill issue.
Damn.
Damn.
If I manage to get an A rank on what's it called? What's the other city level?
The New York City.
New York City, then I should be able to get at least a B rank on Turbo Town, but it's always been a D for me.
I thought it was backwards. I thought Turbo Town was easier.
No.
Turbo Town's easy. In my opinion.
No, I have an A.
Is that one Neon City? Because that one's confusing.
That's City. Yeah, New York City is just confusing.
I think Turbo Town is more confusing because, like, at least with New York City, you have like auto pass and the auto pass don't like punish you or make it so the playthrough becomes longer. But then with Turbo Town, yeah, that's what I mean by confusing. It's just that there's too many elements of the level that just basically either A, punish you for going an alternative route, or B, they just make it it just makes it longer for you to beat the level.
Second question. What did you guys think of TurboBoost when you first got into it? Like your first impressions?
It's your sound engine. Of course, everyone thought it was good. It was sound engine.
That's true.
Yeah, at the time.
It was like a version of sound engine.
Everyone really thought the engine was good. You even released it and people used it. So, of course, everyone was like, this is good. This is really good.
What?
Oh my god, I'm just...
You guys give me issues. I hope you know that. Okay, third question for you guys. How do you feel about TurboBoost in its current state? Oh, hi, welcome. The person...
By like current state, like how...
Current state, finish the game. Finish it. So true. You should finish it.
It's not bad how it was. Like, it wasn't bad before, but it definitely improved a lot.
You know, I had a mod.
Oh my god.
So true, man.
No, I'm going to add that when I remake New York City. I'm going to re-add the strip club and add a scene.
Damn.
Do you guys think that TurboBoost will have any impact on the fan game scene?
I feel like it could.
Yes, I mean, it already has.
Yeah, it already has, basically.
Even if people don't know it, like per se, by heart, it's definitely got some impact.
Literally has a similar taste to Turbo Boost, so I would say yeah.
Actually, it would have a big impact if you just finish it. That's what I'm saying. Just finish it. It's finished. People will play it because it's finished. And then when people realize it's a finished game, they'll like it because it's finished. And when it's finished, okay, I'm repeating myself. You get the point.
I'm going to finish it after I reach the grave. Yes, wait. N.
Nick.
Did someone just get flushed down a toilet?
What are you talking about?
I feel like
think y'all should say goodbye to finally end the recording because I think it's going on for too long.
Okay. Bye, YouTube.
Goodbye, my favorite people. Goodbye, my server. Goodbye. Goodbye, my server.
My neighbor. Yeah, my neighbor looks out.
Goodbye.
Before you go.
What?
Looking back at the journey of Turbo Boost is exciting. Yeah, I might be a little biased, but nobody really notices that. This game started off as a mess, and even that's being nice. I had no idea about game design, level design, or even the tools I was using, but I figured out how to toss my simple knowledge into the ring and make things work. I understood how to use more tools, and I sharpened my knowledge with the process of trial and error. I got my hands dirty, and if something seemed too difficult for me, I'd table it for later. But everything that wasn't too difficult got thrown at the wall so I could take note of what stuck. That even applies to level design. Some of these levels taught me very important things that I continue to apply to this very day. Planet Wisp became the bar for lush environments, while Grand Metropolis helped me realize how important that bar is. Seaside Hill solidified the gameplay, and Havoc Harbor helped me apply that solidification into a bombastic cinematic experience. New Year City set the bar for future level design philosophy, and Turbo Town reinforced the idea that I didn't need a huge team to make a good level, and it also helped me value the importance of environmental narrative. Using all of my experience, I made a couple other games that are noteworthy too. Roblox Runners is a 2D endless runner which honestly crumbles to the fact that everything is made with slapdash solutions to problems. I'm unsure as to whether or not I want to go back to that just because of how messy it is. Consider it something like my messy QTE panel script, but expanded into a whole game. I made Sonic Sound Engine, which is also messy and unoptimized, but helped to shape a generation of Roblox Sonic games. As much as you want to sigh every time you see the ring and time counter on the top left corner, you can't help but feel a little smile grow on your face as you realize that these people are learning about their interests in game development. Heck, some of these people even put it down after realizing not everyone needs to be a game developer. And then the biggest project of them all, Blocky Kong Country 4 or whatever. Yes, that's the full title. I might give that a 5th birthday video too, but I'm undecided. This game is inspired by the Donkey Kong Country games, as the name might imply, and was designed around Roblox's base physics, from things like wall running and wall jumping, to the small things like rolling and diving. A majority of the game happens just by updating the player's velocity, no joke. It's the simplest thing ever, yet you feel the euphoric rush every time this happens. And the best part is that none of these games would have existed if I didn't learn my lessons from Turbo Boost. So let this be a message to young game developers. Learn game development from your own faults and shortcomings. Do not let people do things for you. Work to understand what things do what and how to apply that knowledge to your game. It's important to fail and mess up. The faster you fail, the faster you learn, so don't feel anxious about starting from square one. And never be afraid to ask for feedback. If you have a problem, talk about it and ask for tips to fix it yourself. Don't forget that you don't need to be perfect, and your game doesn't need to be either. You don't need your game to play like Sonic Unleashed or Sonic Adventure. You don't need that awesome Sonic model to make your game fun. You don't need Sonic 06 character animations to make your game come to life. And you don't need rails and light speed dash and quick time events to make your game complete. Don't let inspiration become a hurdle. Develop listening skills, be innovative, and learn to fail so you can learn. Plan things out, but don't bite off more than you can chew. Make an MVP and the game's just likely to develop itself from there. That's what happened to me, at least. Anyway, happy 5th birthday, Turbo Boost. Thank you for being a good teacher, and thank you guys for listening.